Welcome back, my business besties. Today we're talking about how ClinicMonk, my new CRM, can help your intake coordinator convert more consult calls. Now, this is the first time I'm talking about my messaging change because you might have just heard that and said, wait a minute, I thought my therapists were supposed to be doing the consult calls. Well, I'm going to explain everything and why that's no longer working. Over the last year, as you know, I've coached over 1,000 therapists, and I'm always listening to all the members all the time and constantly just immersing myself in what's working because the world is rapidly changing. Over the last few years, the economy has shifted. Over the last 8 years, there's these private equity firms that have come in, and with big tech companies, they're able to offer virtual therapy way cheaper than you. So how do we stay ahead of the curve? Well, while I was listening, I was hearing my members say, my therapists just aren't converting, Nicole. And it's exhausting because there's so many of them, or maybe one of them converts or some of them, but not all of them. And then Nicole, the ones that do convert, they get busy because they're booking the therapy, and then their availability for consult calls goes down. And then the conversion rate goes down because the other ones are doing them and they're not converting. Or what was happening at scale was this. Picture you have a big team now. People aren't reading the bios and they're booking a consult with the wrong therapist. And therapists were getting frustrated because they were giving their time for this consult. But when they're on the consult, the client who just didn't read it because they're in distress, they didn't read the bio, turns to them and says, oh, do you do EMDR? And they're like, no. And they just that's just a waste of a call. Or do you do couples therapy? And they're like, no. Or the opposite problem. They were booking with multiple therapists. This also happened in our clinic where clients were just booking with 2-3 therapists to test them all out. So listening to this, I went to all the experts. I interviewed a bunch of coaches, agencies about what is working now. And they said an intake coordinator is working now. Now, I did lots of research. I didn't really buy it right away because we actually tried that at my clinic where we had our admin. So when I say intake coordinator, if you don't have a lot of cash flow right now, or even if you do, it's basically your current admin. So we tried that for a very short time, and the admin wasn't doing a really good job. I don't think I trained them really well. And then as a result, they were still asking to speak to the therapist, which is why my messaging was just keep the therapist doing it. It's not perfect. The conversion rate is low. It's a lot of work, but what else can we do? But then as I mentioned, found out there is a way. If you do a really good job, imagine having one person that is focusing on client acquisition. You train them in the consult call script that I give you. Do you want my new one? I will give it to you. Message me on Instagram, will you? Consult call script. I've updated it for you for your admin now. A lot of the questions are the same because the conversation that converts and the client journey that converts, a lot of it is the same, but now there's elements of matching. Because what I'm realizing is as time goes by, people become more and more impatient in this AI world. They're not reading the bios. They don't want to go through the whole team page and pick someone. They actually want someone they can share. Here's what I'm going through. Here's what I need. And then the intake coordinator does the matching. And that's working now. So we need to change the way we're doing things. I think one of the biggest reasons after doing this research, why the therapists aren't converting, it makes so much sense. Number one, they're brainwashed because they're therapists. So they are brainwashed like we were to not feel salesy. Even booking 4 sessions is hard for them. And all of that is showing up on the call, and then people aren't booking, number one. But number two, they don't know their conversion rate. If you work with me, I teach you to meet with them every 90 days and go over every quarter their conversion rate. But that's hard to pull in the EHR because leads, they just don't have a good conversion rate because they treat the consult call as a first visit. You can do it, but it's complex. But now that I've created ClinicMonk, the conversion rate is in a dashboard that I'm going to send to you every single week in a summary report. An automated message when you're using ClinicMonk goes to the owner where it shows you these are the leads that came in. Here's the clients that came in. Here's the conversion rate for your intake coordinator. This is what your therapist never got to see because it was complex in the EHR. We took it out of the EHR. It is in ClinicMonk now where all the consult calls happen. I'm going to talk about that in a sec. And the person doing the consult call is just one person that has one goal, which is client acquisition. That intake coordinator is running the CRM. They're the ones looking through the pipeline, looking at every day at their conversion rate. Before, when the therapists were doing it, they had no idea what the score was. They had no eyes on anything. Imagine playing basketball. You have no idea what the scoreboard is. Now you finally have one person that you can focus on, way less exhausting. They're in the CRM every day and they have this sense of ownership. My job is to track all the leads and convert them. This admin can be virtual. It's ideal if they're virtual. If you do have an in-person admin, I'd like you to keep that person greeting every client that walks through the door, making sure the tea is stocked and the water is full and the therapists are taken care of, in between sessions, fluffing the pillows and doing all that. But imagine you had somebody that was virtual that literally just banged out all the consult calls. Now I give you a calendar for your admin, and this particular online booking calendar is separate than your EHR. So we've separated them out, and that's actually really good clinically. Have you ever gone through, this happened to us, and I hear it all the time, where because the consult call happens within the EHR, and that's usually where all the clients are, right? That our therapists are not supposed to send the consent form before the consult call. That is not a client. They get the consent form after the consult call, like when they're going to consent to treatment. Well, I've heard some people by mistake, the admin or something happens where they sign the consent form before the consult. I've had one clinic recently get pulled into court because of that one consult call. But what if you had all your consult calls in a completely separate system where all of your leads lived? So this is where we do the consults and convert them. Your virtual admin, when they're on the phone, so what's going to happen is your online booking button on your website will say book a 15-minute consult call. When they click that, that's going to take them to the ClinicMonk calendar. Let me show you. Here is the ClinicMonk consult call calendar. Only consult calls happen here. And you're going to have your intake coordinator's face. They're going to click on the book a free 20-minute consult call. They're going to come here. They're going to see this lovely face. You're going to have your admin/intake coordinator's name here. If you're listening to the podcast, now would be a great time to jump into YouTube to visually see it. But I'll say it out loud so you can see it if you're driving. I'll paint a picture for you. It looks a lot like Calendly, and you can customize the colors. I have teal because that is the ClinicMonk color. The nice thing about ClinicMonk is you tell it once your colors and it will always remember it. They're going to book on here. And what you'll notice, two things that you're going to love about this online booking calendar. One, it is free. If you put your admin or intake coordinator into your EHR, you're going to pay, right? You have to pay like you would a therapist booking. So this is absolutely free, which is why I think you should just do it within the system. If you want all the attribution, you have to use the ClinicMonk calendar. Let me explain what that means. This is built in within ClinicMonk. So when they book in the calendar, then the lead lands in the pipeline. I'll show you the pipeline. Here is the pipeline. They're going to automatically land in consult call booked. And they're going to automatically get a text and an email to make sure they show up. But wait, there's more. They're also going to automatically get what I've put together for you. I've written everything for you. It's done. Like I wrote all the emails, all the texts. You can change them if you want. They're customizable. They get a pre-engagement sequence. Leads are most likely to cancel on the free consult call. Why? They haven't met the person. I've done that before. I feel horrible. I did it once. I'm like, well, it's free. And, they're just not committed. They haven't seen the person face to face yet. Because of that, not only do we send them a notification and automatically a text and an email, we send them a series of pre-engagement emails. And what that is, it's helping them process and get ready for this session. So one email shares what to expect in a consult call. The other email shares this is how you prepare for a consult call. So they're mentally kind of getting excited, if you will, for it. And it really increases the show up rate. So the calendar tracks, by using the calendar, the lead is automatically tracked. Those stats end up in the dashboard for you, but also a whole nurture campaign is sent to get them there. But even better, if once that intake coordinator does the consult call, which I think should actually be on the phone, by the way, I don't think you need video. I think video was important maybe if you had therapists do it, but an intake coordinator is just on the phone. When they're on the phone, the intake coordinator is going to book them in JNAP. Are you using JNAP? That's the EHR I recommend. I'll give you 2 months free to use JNAP. Once they're booked, then done. But let's say they cancel or no-show on the consult call, which all happens in ClinicMonk. ClinicMonk is smart enough to see that that was canceled. And guess what happens? Another automation that they're sent an immediate text. And I love that because sometimes people forget. So if they no-show on the consult and the intake coordinator is sitting there waiting, trying to reach them, they get an immediate text. So if they look at their phone, they might be like, oh, shoot, my call's right now. The chances that they're able to make the call go up. But wait, it gets even better. One of my favorite things, another automation is, let's say they don't book on the consult call. People have to think about it. Let me call my insurance. Let me see if I can get a babysitter. Let me work some things around. I'll call you back. ClinicMonk is smart enough that after 1 week of waiting in the pipeline for them, if we still have not heard from them, they get sent the lead magnet, because I want you to continue to nurture them with a free guide, because they're going to be put on, with their permission, put on your email marketing list so you don't lose them. Because that's the thing, is we work so hard. They book the consult, but then they don't book. They kind of ghost you. But can you imagine if you were still nurturing them? Because research says that they thought they were ready, but their stage of change is not there yet. They're just not ready. They might be ready in 3 months, but you're not going to continue to follow up for that long and you lose them. But what if they were on your mailing list? And research shows that when they are ready, whether it's 3 months or a year from now, whatever content they're consuming, really hear this, at that time, that's who they'll book with. And the problem is, because you don't have ClinicMonk or a CRM system that's automating everything, they're reading somebody else's content in 3 months. Maybe it's social media content, or they're on someone's email list and they're booking with them just because they happen to read content at the time that they're ready to actually book. This is why I want them on your email list so they're consuming your content and booking with you. I suggest that your intake coordinator will be on the online booking, doing the consult calls for at least 20 hours. As you know, I think you should have 2 part-time admin. I say this because, and of course you'll start with just 1 part-time. I learned the hard way where I had one person I relied on for everything, and then she quit and I was devastated. And when she was sick, it was really stressful, or on vacation, because it was, guess who it was? I was the other admin. So I suggest your first admin will be virtual. They will be running ClinicMonk and doing all of the consult calls. Then eventually you'll get more availability on the online booking. But if you're listening and you have multiple admin, you can even put multiple people on consult calls, because we know the more availability in the calendar, the better. But for right now, at least have 20 hours. And what's beautiful is, I suggest you go into your EHR and check when are the busy times. And that's when you're going to book your intake coordinator, because you have data, a lot of you. You have therapists already doing the consult calls. Go and see in your EHR when people are booking. And then that's when you're going to say, okay, great, I'm going to pick 20 time slots. And that's when the intake coordinator will do the 20-minute consult calls. The great news is, if that intake coordinator is not on a consult call, guess what they're doing? All of your admin, all of the other stuff that I'll link to the show notes, all the things you should get your admin to do. So they're doing the admin work in between the consult calls, and they're also running the CRM. The best part is they're no longer doing all the spreadsheets, because everything is tracked within ClinicMonk. They're no longer doing all the follow-ups. You were paying them $20 or more an hour to follow up with the no-shows, the canceled consults, those that don't book on the consult. And now they're not doing that, which is amazing. So you can take that money, and actually I did the math. I thought back to, okay, how much time did my admin focus on doing all these follow-ups and spreadsheets? And I would say it was at least 3 hours a week. That's 12 hours a month. That's $300 that I was paying them that you no longer have to pay them anymore. So if I were you, I would take that $300, the CRM is way cheaper than that, and then invest it in the CRM. And now they have extra time to do the consult calls. Do you see that? So you're moving money around in the right places. Now you're automating your practice, but also now they have more free time, which gives them time to do consult calls and run the CRM. If you only have an in-person admin because you're in person, what some people are doing is that admin is still on consult calls. It's not ideal, but until you have cash flow, they're using a spare office or using the kitchen. When no one's in the waiting room, they're doing consult calls. That's a short term until they have the cash flow to get a virtual person. So that person just can bang out a bunch of calls and get people booked. Now, for some of you, you're getting pushback from your therapist. They want to do the consult calls. I did some research on this, and guess what I found? Listen closely, because I found this in my clinic too. Those therapists who want to do the consults, they want to do the consult calls, ask them, and you'll probably hear this because they're picky. They're like, I want to do the consult call because I want to see if they fit into my schedule. I just want to see how comfortable I am. And in my experience, you can be picky or you can be busy, but you can't be both. It's the therapists that don't want to step outside of their comfort zone clinically. And that's why their conversion rate is so low. Those therapists who are saying that are the therapists that you do not want doing the consult calls. Look and see. Those are the ones with the low conversion rate. So what we're going to tell them is, I want you to see this intake coordinator. They're going to book you, but also know you can see them as your gatekeeper. If there's certain people that I just don't feel this type of therapy client is a good fit, add it to our spreadsheet where the intake coordinator has notes on every therapist. They will take good care of you. If anything, you'll feel even more happy with the therapy you're doing because you have somebody closely matching. The intake coordinator is going to get to know every single therapist really, really well and be a professional matchmaker, if you will. Tell the therapist that. We were seeing when people were booking consult calls on the online booking, something weird was happening. And I wonder if you've seen this yourself. You have an online booking button on your website. They were clicking that. Your Google Ads company was tracking the button clicks and saying, oh, wow, you got a lot of people clicking that button. But for whatever reason, when they went to the actual EHR, they dropped off, they didn't book. And we were racking our brain like, why? It's a pretty online booking, like what was happening? Here's what was happening that ClinicMonk solves. When you sign up for an EHR, when you go to book an appointment, what do you have to do? You have to create a profile. You have to come up with a login and a password. And I don't know about you, but when I shop online and I have to do that, I always skip that. I check out as a guest because most people don't want to have to come up with yet another password that they have to remember. So I think it's a lot of friction, that step. Now, EHRs are built that way, of course, because of PHI. Now, ClinicMonk is also HIPAA compliant and helps you be PETA and PHIPAA compliant in Canada, don't worry, but the calendar is different. There is no profile. Let me show you one more time. It looks just like Calendly. This is what people are used to. When they go to book a meeting, think of yourself. Could be any meeting with anyone, business related or just anyone. They send you their calendar. You book on their calendar, no profile. You just book, you get the invite and done. The exact same thing is with this calendar. So of course, it's all privacy compliant, but we removed the biggest bottleneck, which was the profile. More people are now booking with less friction. One thing I want to point out that's important with the calendar, because it's the ClinicMonk calendar, You don't book therapy here. You only book consults. ClinicMonk is only for leads. The moment they book therapy, that intake coordinator is booking them in the EHR. So think in your head, therapy equals EHR, leads, AKA inquiries, equal my CRM. That's the purpose of a CRM. But what I love about the moment they book in your new handy dandy calendar where there's no profile bottleneck, looks a lot like Calendly, is pretty and even has a face on it, which is important, as I always say, it pulls attribution. I said that earlier. I want to explain what that means. It will tell you if it comes from a Google ad, AI, SEO, social media, Psychology Today. The calendar literally is able to see that. EHRs don't do that. What I love about that is now you know where that lead came from and you can invest more in that exact marketing. The ClinicMonk calendar that your intake coordinator will be using is not just online booking, it's a whole marketing system, as you can see. How do you feel? I know this might feel like a big transition. If you're new to scaling and you haven't actually hired yet, then you're just going to do it the right way now. This is really important in 2026. We have to pivot. Things are slower overall, but those that get a CRM and those that will now have a sales department where there's one person with full ownership, with eyes on their conversion rate, those are the ones that are going to convert. Leads will not fall through the cracks. It is worth the transition. Have your therapist focus on retention. What if they just saw paid clients? No more free consult calls. That goes to the intake coordinator and they're seeing paid client after paid client and they're focusing on retention. They're just going to do a better job. I think they were spread too thin, focusing on way too much. Let them focus on what they love. Next week is where I talk to you about lead magnets that are built into ClinicMonk. I'll see you next week.